What is down, everybody? It's your main Crystal Pancake. Welcome back to another video. What is my hair doing right now? Welcome back to another video. That made it a lot better. Yeah, that was a good. That made my hair look great. Actually, wow. Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about the Quoll, Quoll. Before we get into the video, I've got a big thank you to give to everyone watching this currently. Not only for watching this, but also we hit 500 subscribers. 500. That's more than 327. That's more than 328. Do you believe that? That's wild. Anyway, yeah. So I didn't really want to make a whole video about it. I've done that in the past for milestone stuff. I just want to keep doing the same thing and not really throw off the schedule of awesome bangers revolving around awesome animals, like the Quoll, a marsupial. Did I already say marsupial? So let's get into it. Today we're talking about the taxonomy of the Quoll, the appearance, the behavior, the habitat, the diet, the reproduction, and its threats, and the conservation efforts to counteract the threats per se. We're going to start off with the taxonomy. Now, you're probably wondering, why are you starting off with the taxonomy? That's a little weird. Well, there's two reasons. One, taxonomy is pretty cool stuff. If you don't want to hear all this kind of scientific-y stuff and you just want to see cool pictures, you can skip to I got chapters that I put in, which is a pretty nifty trick. But the main reason is because the Quoll is not its own species. The Quoll, there are 6 different species of Quoll, all in the genus Dasyurus. That, there's 6 different species of Quoll. 2 of them are specific to New Guinea, and 4 of them are specific to Australia. So, let me go through these 6 species real quick, and this is really just to get an understanding of a lot of other stuff in the video. Is going to talk with species involved, We like being inclusive around here, Tiger Quoll, which is the largest of the Quoll. Dasyurus maculatus, scientific name. It resides in southeastern Australia. The western Quoll, Dasyurus geoffroy, maybe I pronounced that right, resides mainly in the Jarrah forest in central southern Australia. The eastern Quoll, Dasyurus viverinus, lives in Tasmania. It recently, semi-recently, went extinct on the mainland of Australia, so it pretty much only lives in Tasmania now. The northern Quoll, Dasyurus halicatus, lives in the islands surrounding northern Australia, in some northern Australia, you know what I'm saying. The bronze Quoll, which has the coolest scientific name, Dasyurus spartacus. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Spartacus. Might not be how it's pronounced, but that's how it looks. Spartacus. And it resides in southern New Guinea. And then the New Guinean Quoll, Dasyurus albopunctatus, resides all throughout New Guinea. So those are your 6 species. We'll reference back to those later on in the video. We'll talk about the differences in them and some stuff like that. There are also 2 other species that are known about that went extinct before last night when I was researching all this stuff. Fossils were found in Queensland, Australia. That area, not like directly on top of Queensland, but in the Queensland area of Australia. It is estimated that the Quoll species evolved around 15 million years ago. The Quoll genus, I guess, would be the better term. Its genus name, Dasyurus, is quite rude. It means hairy tail, which, you don't have to point it out like that. The Quoll might be self-conscious, and you're just salt in the wound. That's a little on the nose, but whatever. In the early days of humanity, meaning before, me and you were alive, the Quoll hadn't been really, identified as a Quoll. People, they're not often seen, per se. So when people would see them, they would just mistake them as either feral cats or marten. I'll put a picture up of a marten. Looks kind of like it. It took a while for them to to figure out that it was a different thing altogether. When they did, they still messed it up. The first quoll that was like officially described, they put it in the same genus as the American possum, which was a slight miscalculation. One of their closest relatives is not the American possum. It's actually the Tasmanian devil. So, pretty cool. And the name Quoll was also derived from a language, from an indigenous language. So, the indigenous people had the name for the quoll, and they kind of took it and altered it a little bit, and that's how we got that. So that's the taxonomy. That's the basic breakdown of the breakdown of the breakup. You know what I'm saying? Now, let's move into the appearance. So now that you know a little bit about their quoll, we'll talk about what to look for when you're in the Australian bush looking for these little fellas. Well, they can be little. They can also be quite large. The species variation in size is substantial. You've got the smallest species being the northern quoll, only growing up to a pound. The average female weighs 11 ounces. So you're looking small, you know. Meanwhile, the tiger quoll, which I already mentioned as being the biggest, can grow up to 15 pounds. So you're looking at like 15 times the size of the little teeny northern quoll. And that's weight. As far as length, not counting the tail, they can grow anywhere from 10 inches, which is just little guys, to 30 inches, which is, you know, the bigger guys. Their fur has a variety of different colorations. They can be brown, black, more of a tannish color, and then also like a ginger type of fur, which is pretty nifty. Their fur also has scattered white spots on it, which is pretty much all of them do, which is interesting to me that they vary this much in size, but then they're like, yeah, we'll still have spots. Why not? So that's pretty cool. They got pink noses. Not sure why that was pertinent information, but I figured I'd put it in here. Their noses are pink. As previously stated, their scientific name means hairy tail. If you didn't originally catch on, which I know it's difficult, it's a straining concept, but they do have a hairy tail. Their tail is hairy, and they got real sharp teeth. When we get into their diet, you'll see why. Okay, now, behavior, they're nocturnal. So, if you're going looking for quoll, if you're going quoll hunting, go at night. Not during the day, because they are nocturnal. They're carnivorous. Yeah, they're omnivorous. They do, some species will eat more fruits and fruits and nuts and stuff like that, but for the most part, they are carnivorous. They are solitary creatures, mostly dwelling underground in dens, things like that. We'll get more into that in habitat. They spend most of their time on the ground-dwelling creatures, but they can climb fairly well. They've also been known to have very wide ranges of territory, up to multiple miles away from their home den. And the male territories are usually the ones that are multiple miles, and in these territories there will be smaller female territories. Multiple female territories will be in the large big one. Something extremely odd that is really cool to think about is that quoll actually have like communal bathrooms on the edges of territories, which is just flabbergasting. This creature who's mostly solitary doesn't spend much time with other quoll, but they somehow managed to figure out, like, we're all gonna take a dump right there. Thumbs up, thumbs up. All right, we're good to go. It's an interesting concept. Faux show. But yeah, little bathroom sites have been found with up to 100 different droppings in them, which is pretty crazy. They also, like, the way they communicate is by hissing and chirping and screaming. Those are just a few of the sounds that they can make. And something very cool as well is that when they're doing this, when they're like hissing or chirping or screaming or vocalizing, their pitch has noticeable changes in it depending on who they're talking to, whether they're talking to their child or a competing male quoll or a female quoll talking to another female versus male. They change their pitch, which is pretty cool. I do too. All right, let's move on to... Oh, wait. Halt. Who goes there? Me. their lifespan, very low lifespan. They actually only have a lifespan of wow, that was English. They actually only have a lifespan of about 1 to 5 years. Depends on the species. The larger species tend to live longer. So 1 to 5 years, that's about max. And also the females live longer, just like in humans, for different reasons than humans, I presume, but same difference. Now, where do these fellows live? Where are these fellows residing? Where do they pay rent? Where's their tax money going? You know, it's going to the squirrels. Why is it going to the squirrels? I have no idea. I don't know why I said that. Anyway, they live mostly in dens, but they kind of just find dens more than make them. They'll live almost anywhere. They'll live in hollow logs, rock crevices, and they've even been seen living in termite mounds, which is a pretty baller. As for the larger scale, pretty much Australia, Tasmania, New Guinea, and that's it. They're fairly sparse, fairly widely distributed. They used to be a lot more of them, of course. We'll get into that later too. Across about 70% of Australia, and now I'll throw up a little map. They're pretty much only around the edges now in certain spots. Now, what do these little fellas eat? What's going in their tummies? A lot of meat. As I mentioned previously, they're mostly carnivorous. So your smaller species are going to eat a lot of insects, birds, frogs, lizards, fruit, and nuts. That's going to be the main thing. And like the birds are going to be smaller birds, of course. They're not going to be eagles. The larger species are going to eat. They'll eat a lot of the same stuff. A lot of like amphibians and reptiles and stuff. They also eat a lot more birds of a more wide variety, and they'll also eat some small mammals. So like rabbits and other small mammals. They've also been seen eating carrion. I didn't know what this meant either. I had to look it up, but it means like already dead corpses. So like what a buzzard eats, right? Buzzards eat dead things, right? They've been seen resorting to that when food is scarce. They've also been seen eating humans. So like human dead on the side of the road, Quoll says, "Don't mind if I do. I'll treat myself tonight." Sounds pretty cool. The way that they hunt is mostly via stalking their prey. Like they spot them and then they kind of like that, you know what I'm saying? Which is pretty nifty, pretty cool, pretty epic. Sometimes the males will search for miles trying to find food in a single night. When they do find their food, they jump on them, pin them down, and eat them. Or if it's like a rabbit or a possum or something, they go for the jugular. They go for the neck. Like if you ever watch Animal Planet, you see the lion jump on the water buffalo and reach under and grab its neck. Brah. It's that, but on a smaller scale. They've also been recorded like they could like kind of reach into the burrow and see if they can snatch up a little fella hiding away, which is pretty messed up, to be honest. But nature's an ugly place. Something interesting, they obtain all the water that they need from the food that they eat, so they actually don't like drink water. As for what eats them, mostly like snakes. So it's Australia. They're everywhere. Crocodiles, dingoes. Yeah, that's right, dingoes, and hawks as well, like large birds of prey. Will swoop down and get them if they ain't keeping an eye out. Now, how do they make more Quoll? Right? How do you reproduce? So mating happens during the winter, in the cold months, which is not glamorous for the males, I presume. If they're anything like humans, you know, cold outside, not great. But I digress. Gestation, very quick, about 21 days. They're snappy with it. When they give birth, a baby Quoll is extremely small. Mind you, they are marsupials, so they can they're in the little pouch. Baby Quoll, when it's born, is about the size of a grain of rice. They vary in size a little bit, of course, but like that, to try to give you a reference of how small they are when they're first born, that's about that. The female gives birth to about 30 pups So you give birth to about 30 young, but the females have 6 to 7 teats, so nipples. So they can only feed 6 or 7 young. So those 6 or 7 get on a little, meal plan, and they fuse to it. They stick to it for 6 to 8 weeks before they let go, which means the remaining pups go to a farm in upstate New York. The females, like I said, they're marsupials, so the females develop pouches during their breeding season, and the only species that has an actual traditional pouch is the tiger quoll. All of the other species develop a pouch that opens like toward the tail, so it's kind of like reverse a little bit. The pups leave the den at about 5 months old. They're mature at about a year. The only time that the females and the males ever really mix is during this mating season. And some bad news for the males is that a lot of them die after their first mating season, especially the smaller ones. They give it all they got, and then they got nothing left. And then they also go to a farm in upstate New York. Okay, now moving on to threats and conservation efforts. What's threatening them? Some toads, but we'll get into that a little more. Their numbers have decreased substantially ever since a certain event happened. That's right. The British. The British are coming, the British are coming. The British came, and the quoll did not withstand it very well. They didn't take the brunt of the coming. So, of course, things like industrialization and building buildings and stuff like that. Habitat loss, it's all going to hurt the quoll, of course. Human expansion, not great for everyone except for humans. Also, the cane toad is really not great. You may know what the cane toad is. If not, I'm going to tell you what it is. It's a toad. It's an invasive species to Australia. It's a non-native species to Australia. It's got like poison sacs on its back pretty much. So the majority of animals that consume it die. They eat the frog. They get the poison in them. They die. And the cane toad is a juicy look. I mean, look at this guy. Tell me you wouldn't want to just chow down on that guy right there. I mean, whew, that's enticing. So a lot of quoll fell to the cane toad. There's also a lot of competition from cats and foxes and dingoes and such for food. Like the quoll and them eat very similar diets. And all of those animals are actually not native to Australia. A lot of people don't know that, but even the dingo is not native to Australia. I mean, it's about as Australian as you can get. It's not actually native to Australia, according to, people. And another thing that's really not great on the quoll, as I mentioned, the invasive species, the non-native species, have been hurting the quoll for a long time. A lot of people in Australia put out a poison called fluoroacetate, and basically this kills rabbits, foxes, and dingoes to try to dampen their numbers. But it also kills quoll, so a lot of quoll fall to it. Settlers actually brought the rabbits over and released them because they wanted rabbits. They were just like, you know what this place needs? Some rabbits. And that's what they did. And of course, the quoll saw these rabbits running around, and they're like, ha ha, dinner. And the people caught on. They were like, hey, these quoll, they're killing our rabbits. Let's kill the quoll. Because the first human brain, it goes, problem? Violence. I've got an answer. So captive breeding programs have been set up, quite a few of them. Controlled releases of quoll into different areas are happening fairly often to try to push them back out. Some scientists actually proposed that we should allow people to have quoll as pets in order to kind of help with the conservation efforts. Not everybody's on board, which I kind of see where the gray area would be. I feel like a quoll is a little dangerous, but then again, dogs they can't be any more dangerous than a dog, right? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so the eastern and northern quoll are endangered, and the tiger and western quoll are near threatened. So they're not having a great time. But that's about all I got for you. So as usual, my sources in the description. All the hard research I do for you guys. So yeah, that's the quoll for you, ladies and gentlemen. The whole spectrum of quoll, all 6 species, kind of broken down for you. A little brief, a little great, a little awesome, a little pancake. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to smash the like button. Make sure to subscribe. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and make someone else's day better if you can. You know, someone out there that you come across needs someone to brighten their day. So why not you? You know, if you can, I understand. Maybe you're the person who needs their day brightened, and I hope someone comes along and brightens it for you. If I wasn't able to, thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see all y'all later.